This is the SAU Report, a program featuring interviews with the faculty, staff, students, and alumni of Southern Arkansas University in Magnolia.
Welcome to this edition of the SAU Report. I'm Heather Halter.
And I'm Daniel Green. With us today we have Miss Peggy Walters. She's the director of the library. Thank you for being with us today, Miss Walters.
Thank you for having me.
What does your job as the director of the library entail?
A lot of meetings lately. Actually, I take care of the budget, plan, kind of do some long-term planning kinds of things, work with faculty, kind of get the good part of the job, I guess. I miss working with students. I used to work the reference desk a lot, and this Sunday I get to work the reference desk again. We'll see if I remember how.
Have you seen the library change since you've been here?
Absolutely, absolutely. I came here in '94, and at that time there were, I think, 4 or 5 computers in the reference area, and if you wanted to get in the catalog, you had to come in the library. None of this off-campus kind of thing. There were no full-text databases, no online things like ProQuest. The internet wasn't here yet. You could telnet into things if you had the patience. So things have changed drastically. It's kind of exciting.
Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about your background. How long have you been a librarian, and how long have you been interested?
I've only actually been a librarian for about 8 years. I graduated from college, was a teacher, taught public school for a while, had 4 kids, then ran my own business, then went back to school, got a master's in English, and taught college level English, and decided finally after all those years that I should have done what I should have done all along, which was be a librarian. So I went back to school a second time as a little old lady.
Is the library open to the public?
Absolutely. We have community people who come in and get a library card, and we don't charge them for that card. So we hope they'll come in and use the library. We have people come in and use our electronic resources. So yes, we encourage community users.
How often do you see people from the community using the facilities?
Every day. Every day.
I know there's the Frontier in American Culture exhibit is now going on in the library. Can you tell us a little bit about the events surrounding that?
Sure. Did either of you go to James Lowen's lecture the other day? I'm sorry I asked that question. Boy, you all missed something good. The exhibit will be in the library until the 14th of December. We wrote a grant, Gail Costin and I did, and the Arkansas Humanities Council did the majority of the funding to bring the exhibit here. So the exhibit's on display, and in conjunction with the exhibit we have about 11 events that will be going on from now until the end of March. So that's where we are. We're real excited. Next week, I hope the SAU students will come out on Thursday night to the Armory at 8 o'clock. We have a guy coming from Texas who is a writer and a musician, and he's bringing a couple of the members of his band, and we're going to have a barn dance for the SAU students. So his name's Mike Blakely. He's written a lot of Western books that have gotten really good reviews. We have some in the library, but he'll be here. I'm looking forward to meeting him. He and I have corresponded by email, and he sounds like he's going to be a lot of fun. So I think tickets go on sale Monday, and they're $1.50 a person, $2 for a couple, and there'll be, I think, a couple of dollars at the door. But that should be an experience to have this band from Texas come in.
I understand the theater department is helping you out in this?
They've been great. Every department has been just great. Today, we've had Frontier Days at the Osmer House. Old Washington Historic State Park brought their Frontier activities up to the Osmer House, and I think they had about 400 public school children that came there and did all kinds of things. They took some pictures with the video camera, and they milked a goat, and they had everything from quilting to blacksmith. They had all kinds of frontier things. Kids were making candles, And as I think right now, our SAU students are able to go there and participate. And for that event, we had some theater students who researched over the summer and then wrote and performed first-person narratives of people on the frontier. One of the girls was in the library the other day, and the kids were absolutely fascinated. She did her interpretation, and they were going, "Is that real? Did that really happen?" And of course, young public school kids just think to see a college kid is just the neatest thing. So the ag students were helping today at Frontier Day. They had gone up to Old Washington and participated in their Frontier Day and learned all the activities that they were going to have to do. And then they were helping here on campus today. And again, those young kids, of course, to see a college, a big kid doing whatever was really impressive for them. So the nicest thing about the Frontier events is that so many different departments have contributed both ideas and help. A week from Thursday, the 8th of November, Scott Momaday will be speaking that night in Harton. And that's something that every student should make an attempt to see. He's a Native American, a writer, poet, artist, and supposedly a wonderful speaker. Some of his writings are in the anthologies that the freshmen use in the freshman comp classes. So he's a name that you should recognize, and don't miss a chance. I'm going early. I'll be the person in the front row, center, waiting.
Are all these events that are going on, are they open to the public or to students or just anyone?
Open to the public. We hope students will come, and they're all free. They were funded by SAU and the Arkansas Humanities Council, and Old Washington for the events that went on today. So yeah, we hope everybody will come.
What impact do computers have on the library?
Well, you can probably tell me that better than I can tell you. One of the questions when we were talking earlier was, do we have a card catalog? Well, we don't. If you can't use the computer, you can't find a book in the library. So in that respect, computers have changed what we do. The plus is that you can search my catalog from your dorm room at 2 o'clock in the morning, instead of having to come in at regular hours to see what we have. Also, computers have changed, and the internet in particular, by making information available through the internet so that you can read an article from Time magazine from your dorm room instead of coming in the library and picking up the magazine and reading it there. So they've changed and will continue to change the way we do research. It's opened up the possibilities. For those of us who did research the old-fashioned way, we should make you all do that just so you recognize the difference. But it's empowering. It's a wonderful change, and that's what makes libraries exciting instead of that kind of stodgy, boring place that people think they used to be.
Do you think that the library should have its own computer commons?
I think that students would benefit by having computer commons kind of an area in the library. Right now you can do research there, and you can print something from the internet, print that article from Time magazine, but you cannot work on your paper in the library where you could write a little and then find another bit of information that you might need. So I think for students it would be beneficial to have additional computers like the Commons in the library.
Have you seen a decrease in the use of the library since the success of the internet?
We've seen a change in the way the library is used. I heard an interesting statistic at a library meeting a couple of years ago. I went to the University of Texas, that's where my library degree is from, and they said that, it's a university of 50,000 students, that they had more hits on their library homepage in a month than they had visitors into the whole library system, and they have, I think, about 12 libraries on campus in a year.
Wow.
And in that respect, we are following that pattern. We're tracking the number of hits to our homepage, the number of uses that ProQuest has, and it's just phenomenal. So I've been tracking statistics. It's kind of that time of the year for accounting for ourselves. We had a small drop in the number of books checked out. And for a while, our gate count was down a little bit, not as many people in the library, but that's come up the last couple of years as students come into the library so that they can learn to use some of those things that are a little confusing if you're off-site and trying to manage the technology. So we anticipate the more electronic things we're able to provide, the more use the library will get.
Does the library have music for class, like such as fine arts music, requires that you listen to bits of music? Does the library have that, and does the library have sufficient equipment for students to listen to those CDs?
Yes, we do. We have a couple of listening rooms upstairs, and the usual thing for fine arts music is faculty put music on reserve. Students come in, check out the CD, take it upstairs and listen. We also have a big CD collection if you like music and don't want to happen to buy the CD, and you can check those out and take them home if you'd like. But we have plenty of equipment when things burn out, and it's not too hard to replace, not too expensive to replace. So we're pretty set for fine arts music.
When was the last time that the library equipment was updated?
Well, we update little bits of equipment kind of constantly, just like that. Well, we burn out a CD player and we get another one. We've updated, we had a new microfilm reader printer a couple of years ago. We have a new automated system. The library itself got a new system in 1996. And that's what makes it possible for you to use the library from off-site. It's that automated software that put us on the web and lets you search from home instead of having to come in. So we have to update our computers, and those are on a kind of a rickety schedule. And but when we need to, we get desperate and have to, and we get it done by hook or crook.
Yeah. First of all, can you tell us the difference of microfilm and microfiche? And does the library have an adequate supply of that and the adequate equipment to view microfilm, microfiche?
Yeah. Microfilm is really only a way of preserving older materials. For example, we have the New York Times newspaper back to 1850, and it is on microfilm. If it weren't, and we had the actual newspaper, it'd be so crumbly and yellow that we would not be able to keep it. So microfilm and fiche both are a way of preserving materials so libraries can store them, because you can put a whole year of a newspaper or a whole year of a magazine on one roll of microfilm. If you put it in a book, we'd be out of bookshelf space and would have been. We have lots of microfilm and microfiche. And up until about 4 years ago, students made 50,000 copies a year from microfilm. Now, instead of doing that, students can get many of the same things online through the computer, and it's 2 cents to print it from the computer and 10 cents to print the microfilm. So our microfilm's not being used the way it was. What we're hoping, as electronically they get more and more things online backwards. They start with this year and they'll backdate 10 years and backdate 10 more. The New York Times now is available, if you subscribe to it, online back to 1850, which I think is just phenomenal. But the more that's available electronically, the less our microfilm and fiche will be used. You're getting spoiled, and I don't blame you.
Earlier you said that there were listening rooms that students could go to. Are there also study rooms in the library that they can use?
Yeah, on the 3rd floor we have, I think, 6 study rooms. We have keys at the circulation desk. Student just comes in, turns in his ID, checks out the key just like you would a book, and the rooms are upstairs and can be used for study. They get real busy during finals when groups of kids come in to study together. But that's one of the things that we're glad that we have, and we know that students appreciate a kind of a quiet place to study if the dorms are loud. And
How long are they actually allowed to utilize these rooms?
as long as they want. We just ask if you check out a key in the morning, you don't take it out of the building. So if you go to lunch, you need to check the key back in. And you can't have it for 2 or 3 days running. You have to turn it in, when we close at night. But yeah, as long as you need.
Do you see any problem with the budget that the library has to work with? And if so,
Now, how could I not say, of course I do.
And how would you change it if you could?
Well, we're hoping to change it by getting a library fee this next year, which I know for students sounds pretty painful to add another fee on top of what you already pay. But what's happened at the library budget is that in the last, say, 6 years with the internet and the advent of things like full text ProQuest services, students want more and more electronic stuff online, and my budget has not increased. So as I provide that for you, I've had to steal money from something else, and most often it's the book budget. So we're hoping to get a library fee that would help us provide the electronic things. There's lots more available, just like that New York Times we were talking about. That would be something that would be great to subscribe to. Because for history classes or just for general interest, I think it's really interesting to look back at those old newspapers. But we are not subscribing to that now. We don't have the money to do that. So with the fee, we would be able to supply more electronic things and at the same time put some more money back in our book budget. Because some disciplines need books, and that's part of our mission, is to have those books there for you.
Is there a large fiction section for leisure reading?
That's another thing that's strange in college libraries and something that was confusing to me when I was a student. Public libraries and school libraries, public school libraries, have a separate kind of an area for fiction. And college and university libraries do not. The Library of Congress is arranged so that everything written by Stephen King and everything written about Stephen King are in the same place. So if you're a reader and you come to college and you wander around that big library, you'll never find anything to read for fun. And we put in the browsing collection downstairs where the videos are with lots of paperback books, because that's kind of fun fiction reading. And someone who really is looking for something to read, fiction will teach you how to search the catalog and find your favorite author. But that paperback section is really well used. We have lots of people that come in just to read for fun. We also have a lot of books on tape. So if you're making the drive home, and I don't know, do you all listen to books in the car? I can't make a trip without, the time just flies by. We have a lot of those. So we have a lot of different things, lots of videos.
How long are students allowed to check out the fiction books and things
28
like that?
days for books. I think the videos are 7 days maybe. Books on tape 14. And then you can renew. So
Okay.
you can check out as much as you want.
How often do you get in new books? And when you get in the new books, do you have to go through a process of cutting old books that maybe aren't used as much?
Well, they're really separate kinds of problems or separate kinds of issues. We get new books in every day. And as they come in, the new books are put in that browsing area against the wall. It's a new books area. And that way, if a faculty member has ordered a book, we send the order card back and they can come in the library and the book's easy to find because it's in the new book area. Since I have been here, we have been what's called weeding the collection. And that's been an interesting process, particularly, say, in the sciences, where you might not want a medical book that tells you how to cure appendicitis that was written in 1940. And so in some ways, we need to go through the library and take out materials that are out of date. take out old editions. If we have something that we are on the 4th edition and we have editions 1, 2, and 3, we can weed out the first 3 editions and keep the shelves able to support new things as we buy them, and at the same time get rid of old stuff. I don't think the library had been weeded much until I came. And the first year I worked in the business section, and it was interesting. I have 3 daughters, and I found books that I eventually bought in the book sale for them called Jobs for Girls, written in like 1924, where their choices were nurse, seamstress, and mother. And it's materials like that, although we laugh about them and they're interesting. If they're books that were written in 1970 about computers, they're no longer relevant. So, yeah, we try to get rid of, it takes a lot of time to do that.
Oh, definitely.
But we do a little bit of that and a lot of book ordering.
Is SAU up to date with the ACRL standards? And if not, what are the major problems? How do we compare with other universities about that?
ACRL is the Association of College and Research Libraries, and that's the organization that tells us what standards we should measure ourselves against. Everything from how many librarians should you have for a student body, X number of students, to how many books you should have. And in many respects, we do not meet the ACRL standards, and there are a couple of reasons for that. We're a small state university in a state that's not wealthy, and so those are a couple of things that start out to begin with to make things more difficult than they would be, say, in maybe even Texas, in Dallas, at SMU. I'll use that for an example. So money is kind of an issue. We're working hard, I think, and I'm pleased with the progress that we've been able to make to provide things in spite of some of the difficulties that we have. Right. The biggest thing that will help us is this library fee. That will make a lot of difference in our ability to provide more for you students. So we're not there, but we're working hard to get there.
What other types of resources are available in the library for students to research, or just if they're interested in something, what other things can they go look at?
Well, we have everything from current periodicals like Oprah and Field and Stream, if you just want to sit and pass the time reading a magazine, to the London Times newspaper back to 1760, I think, which I think is kind of a kick. We have 150,000 books, and I think about 40,000 videos. Most of what students do is come to the library when they have an assignment that requires research of some kind. So we have lots of books. We have periodicals, and what students seem most interested in are our full text databases. That ProQuest is probably the best example, where you can read business magazines from your dorm instead of coming into the library, and we can also that way have access to a lot more things than we could afford to pay for. So by subscribing to ProQuest, I think in the business database, it's, I think, 600 periodicals that are all business periodicals. The library overall only subscribes to about 760 total is what we have in our library. But that one business database gives us access to 600 more periodicals. And so it's pretty amazing, really, to think that you can sit at your computer and really have access to the world almost. So,
definitely.
Well, Ms. Walters, thank you for being with us today.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
And for this edition of the SAU Report, I'm Daniel Green.
And I'm Heather Halter.
The The SAU Report is a production of broadcast journalism students in the Department of Theater and Mass Communication at Southern Arkansas University in Magnolia.